Dr. Roland Phillips! Excellent! Excellent!
Thank you. Thank you. You're gonna get crying. Thank you. You don't want to get me crying first thing in the morning. That's okay. You can do it. Okay. Whew. Okay. What I'm going to just share with you for the next hour is what I've been doing for 15 years in my office. So now we're going to go from treating room to jumping around, and now we're going to get a little bit into the left brain. This is what you can do as a practitioner to just blow the doors out of your office. This is what I've been doing for the last 15 years. And now with Dr. Ted, the whole Morton Health Care System staff, we've got a really succinct program. This is like a no-brainer to success. And all you need to do is plug into this, get out of your comfort zone, and share what you've been given. The word doctor or practitioner really means to be a teacher. So we're going to share what we've been given. This is my evening with Best. Now you can adapt this for fibromyalgia. This is the basic class that we do. To come into our office, you need to go to a lay lecture. You need to come to Evening with Best. Does it not make sense? How could I take what I've tried to transform and learn in 25, 30 years and expect Mr. and Mrs. Smith, who've never heard of these concepts, put them down on the table and try to bring them back to 3 years old when their brother kicked them in the ankle? That doesn't make any sense. So we have to try to incrementally bring them along, and this is one of the ways you can do that. The other way is when they first come in your office, make sure you get the video, the 5 steps to health. Who has the five steps to health? You really want that, because before they even get to me and to do the case history, you have them watch the 5 steps to health, because it's going to be like a mini lay lecture. So that's something phenomenal. And I do these twice a week in my office right now. You can adapt this to any topic you want to, but this is the basic for all your new clients. And then when you want to have a lecture on fibromyalgia, you want to have a lecture on hot flashes, whatever it may be, you can still adapt that. If you want to know how to adapt it, I highly recommend that you get the 300-hour iPod, DVD, CD of Best. Who has that? Everybody needs that, because that's a way of downloading all the best of the best of the best, downloading it so now you become an authority. Because what is one of the biggest complaints about people or fears when they're speaking in public? They don't know enough, so then they don't have the confidence, and oh my gosh, what if somebody asks me a question and I don't? Well, if somebody asks you a question and you don't know the answer, you say what? I don't know, I'll find out. Okay. Worst case scenario, handled. All right, so they come on in, and now you're gonna have the slides, and then you're gonna have some verbiage here. You're gonna have to pick through it, because there's gonna be times that I'm gonna be talking to you as if you're the clients, and then there's gonna be times that I'm gonna talk to you as if you're practitioners. Does that make sense? So you're gonna have to go back and you're gonna listen to the CDs, the DVDs. You're gonna have the slides. You wanna have the slides. These are training wheels. So they come on in, they sit down, and the first thing that I'm going to do is I have to let them know that I care about what's going on in their life. And what's the first thing that's on everybody's mind when they come into a healthcare lecture? Their problems, right? So I'm going to go right to that. And I'm going to go through each person, and I'm going to preface it. You don't have to give me a case history, but I want to know why you're here. So I'm just going to take the first 5 people in this row, but this is exactly what I do. And they don't have name tags, but I'll say, hi, I'm Dr. Roland Phillips. I'm a chiropractor, advanced holistic healthcare practitioner, and I'll introduce myself, and then I'm going to go right to them, and I'm going to say, why are you here?
I want to stay healthy as I age.
She wants to stay healthy as she ages. Thank you very much. How about yourself?
I want to lose weight.
She wants to lose weight. How about yourself?
I want to gain weight and energy.
He wants to gain weight and energy. How about yourself? They're going to share. They're going to share right here. Look at this. Is a perfect. And that's what they start to do. They start to bond right in the office with each other, because I'm coming to them. All right? How about yourself? she has a neck problem. And I'm not going to go any further, but you get the gist. But I'm going to make sure that everybody gets a chance to say why they're here, because if you don't give them a chance, there's this little part of their brain that's saying, like, he didn't hear, he doesn't know why I'm here. What we're going to do tonight is, by the time that we get to the end, my goal is that you understand the common denominator to all these symptoms. There's a common denominator to why you're here, and we're going to cover those common denominators. Now, the next thing that I'm going to do is I always tell the same joke, and I tell the same joke because I laugh at it. Do you understand that? Like, I'm not a joke teller, but I've got one joke, and then I tell it all the time, and I laugh at it. But there's a reason. So I'm going to go right into a joke, and there's a reason why I'm going to do this. And so once I've welcomed him, so I'll say, okay, so what we're going to talk about tonight, because they've come in off an ad, they've come in off of a recommendation, they've come in from multiple different sources. I'm going to say, what we're going to talk about tonight is we're going to talk about prostate health and Southwest cuisine. Exactly. Now exactly, they start to laugh. Now the guy with prostate health problems isn't laughing. And I just realized that but I got to come up with a different joke so I don't cause them to get defensive. But this is the joke I've been telling, but the reason why I tell a joke is I want to see who laughed, okay? And most of them are going to start to laugh, but the ones that aren't laughing and they're sitting in the audience and they're doing this type of stuff, understand one thing. I'm not pulling them up for a demonstration. I've done that before. Ouch. Ouch. You know? So there's a whole process of what we're going to be doing through this whole day lecture to get agreement, to incrementally have them come up towards me towards them. And this is a screening process also. I am screening out people that I want in the practice and I don't want. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's why I told that joke, right? So from there, I'm going to go right into, we're going to be talking about bioenergetic synchronization technique. It's the technique that I practiced since 1985. And it's awesome, and we see miracles. So let's talk about the founder of the technique. His name is M.T. Morter Jr. He's the founder and the developer of this procedure. For over 30 years, he's been teaching thousands and thousands of doctors and now practitioners. He's impacted the lives of literally, I bet you it's got to be going into the millions now. It has to, the ripple effect is going into the millions. He's past president of 2 chiropractic colleges, Logan and Parker. He is the doctor to celebrities and dignitaries and presidents and kings. Why are you doing that? Because you're doing that so that they see that this is a global picture right here. This is just not about some crazy out there practitioner from Mesa, Arizona. It's bigger, and it's worldwide, and he's an authority. And so that gives you authority. Does that make sense? First thing you want to do. As a healthcare practitioner, we come from a basic premise. And this basic premise, whether you're a chiropractor, massage therapist, whether you're an acupuncturist, whether you're a homeopath, is that there is an innate wisdom in the body. And this innate wisdom is in charge of everything that you and I don't have to think about. So the homeopaths will call it the vital force. The acupuncturist is going to call it chi. It doesn't make a difference what we call it. It's this inborn, innate wisdom, and it helps our body, and it's created to self-regulate. That means that if I'm up on stage, my heart rate's going to do a certain physiology. The hormones are going to do a certain physiology. I don't have to think about it consciously. Does that make sense to you guys? Yes. Do you see what I just did? My goal, and I have to remind myself this when I'm lecturing or when I'm sharing, is I have to constantly stop and I need to get agreement. Because I live, eat, and breathe this. My family does. We've all been doing it, but they haven't. So I have to make a check periodically to just slow down and get agreement for them and ask them, does that make sense? And they'll say yes. Or who's had that experience? Raise your hand. And they'll raise their hand. Do you see what I'm saying? You've got to get them coming along with you, because this is a process. The goal of ads that you run and flyers that you do For those of you that may have heard this before, what's the goals of the ads and the flyers and all that type of stuff that you do? What's the goal for that? To get them to a healthcare lecture, to get them in the office, not to get them as a new patient. That's not why. And we've done that for years. We think we're running these ads and we're going to get them as no, that's not the reason. It's to get them to a lay lecture, get them to a class. And then the goal of the class, what do you think the goal of the class is? Education. Yes, but what's the next step we want to bring them down? Filter them? No, not yet. Evaluation. You want to get them to an evaluation. You want to get an exam. You want to get them into an exam. And then what's the goal of the exam or the evaluation? Not yet. Not yet. Not yet. It's to get them to a report of finding. Get them to a report of findings. So now you're going to do you see the step-by-step progression? Take it a step, there's 3 common reasons. I got the 3 common reasons. I finally went back and I researched it. You know the 3 common reasons why people have problems in learning? And this is a learning experience for them and for you. There's 3 common reasons. The first common reason is mass. The second common reason is a misunderstood word. And the third reason is too great of a gradient. So if you try to take a person who's never understood, even though they are vibrating in their heart, understand if they're coming, most of the people, if they're coming in your door, they're vibrating with you. Does everybody understand that? They would never even come in your door if they weren't vibrating. But you got to work with this thing that we have called educated mind. And if you try to take them from educated mind, that aspirins can help your back pain or solve your problems, and then you get into, well, think about when you were 7 years old and you had a grief. Do you see what that gradient looks like? That's just like taking somebody who's never done a triathlon and do an Ironman. Would that cause a problem? Yeah. Yeah, and even if they could survive that thing, are they going to really come back for it? No. So I want lifetime clientele. So we got to make the gradient gentle. So we get them to the report of finding, and then at the report of finding, what do you think the goal of the report of finding is? Now nobody wants to share because they're like, somebody said commitment. I want them to commit to a block of care. Okay? I want them to sign up for a block of 12, 24, 36. I want committed people. So I've sort of got off track a little bit as giving you the lay lecture, but I'm sort of weaving this in as practitioners, okay? In BEST, we have one way of looking at things, and it's fundamental. And it's that our bodies were created not to be sick, not to be well, but to survive. So let's say that with me. Our bodies were created not to be, but they're not created to be, but they're created to survive. Because everything we're going to talk about tonight is going to be based upon that premise, and you're going to see what we're talking about. There's 2 ways you can look at health, and it's not an either or. It's you use one when it's appropriate and the other when it's appropriate. So we have what's called allopathic medicine, that's medical care. And then we have holistic wellness. I love that picture. Let's just go back. I just love that picture, Sue. I mean, that just gets Sue's essence right there. So in allopathic medicine, what we're talking about, it is symptom-oriented. You don't have to write this down. Don't write it down. Don't write it down. Just feel it. Just feel this right now. Because you're going to get the CDs. You're going to get this. You're going to get this, right? You're going to get this. Do you understand what my goal is right now? Oh, I just tipped my hand. Okay. You can see right through me, but that's okay because it's for you. So allopathic medicine, it's symptom-oriented. It's disease care. It is disease care. It is drugs and surgery and chemo and radiation. That's your options, okay? It's crisis care. It's phenomenal crisis care. Patients, does anybody know that, and I'll do this because now I'm going back into your clients. Does anybody know the definition of the word patient? It comes from a Greek word. It's rooted in the word long suffer. So what I want you to do is raise your hand if anybody out there really likes to suffer for a long time. No, nobody likes to suffer for a long time. And it's passive care. Basically, you don't do a whole lot, right? You just go to your medical doctor and they're going to give you something or do something and you don't do anything at all. It's very passive. So then we have holistic wellness care. It is energy oriented. And we're going to talk about this energy. And it's wellness care. No drugs in surgery, or few. Practitioners are teachers. I'm primarily a teacher. There's an active care. There's a cooperation here. I'm responsible for something, which I'm great at, and you guys are great at as practitioners, and then the client is responsible for their part. Does that make sense to you guys? See, because some of the people, at least from their educated mind, they're coming in and thinking, well, they got a referral, and then you're going to do something, and that something's going to radically change their lives, and they don't have to do anything. They're still in the medical model. There's a lot of people who walk into our clinic that they're still in the medical model, and so you want to be upfront and say, this is not the medical model. It's not that the medical model's bad. When I was younger, I was very anti-medicine. I'm not anti-medicine because if a person has a gunshot wound and they have to have stitches, oh my gosh, you want to get them in that care. Although, and I say this to them, I have worked on people in extreme emergencies like heart attacks after races, 2 or 3 times. And I've worked upon people, and I do this because now I got to get silly. Okay, I've worked upon people in acute asthmatic crisis standing there with the paramedics. Now just check this one out, because now I want them to see that I'm a human being, okay? So I'm a triathlete, and I'm standing there in a Speedo. Now you don't have to picture me in my Speedo. I'm just doing this. Yeah, exactly. The girls can picture me in my Speedo. You don't have to picture me in my Speedo. Okay. So she's kind of like it. Okay, that's cool. Okay, so I'm standing there in my Speedo and my glasses, my sunglasses, and my wife comes up to me and she says, that person over there is having an asthmatic attack. I said, yeah? So she keeps after me. Well, what are you going to do? I'm going to start to breathe. I just got done my race. So she just keeps after me, so I'm fine. Okay, you drug me into it. So I go and what do you do? I mean, you can't lie them down on the ground. They're going to burn themselves. So I just held some contacts, maybe at C2 and maybe at T12, both sides. Then I did a double crown to the sternum, and I worked it through. Now, this is just while the emergency med techs is standing there, and she's turning blue. What are you doing? I'm a doctor. Leave me alone. I know what I'm doing. Now, you'd say I'm a practitioner. She takes a deep breath. She comes out of the asthmatic attack. So, again, this story was just to see that you can, and we can work on people in emergency care. However, sometimes you may need to transition into that acute care too. So I've worked on people with heart attacks long enough so that they would survive so we could get them to a hospital. Does that make sense? Do you see how there's no competition between either school of thought? So we talk about beliefs. Now, what beliefs are? They're those rooted series of thoughts that govern how we perceive, how we see reality, and then respond to reality. So who helped pattern our beliefs? Wow, this is an incredible slide. They just did fantastic on this. So we got the government, and we got teachers, and we got the Pope, and the parents, and the rabbis, and the ministers, and the grandparents, and the news, and the faith, and church, and police, and Judge Judy, and doctors, and it just goes on and on and on and on and on. Now let me ask you a question. Here's the mind-blowing question. The psychologists tell us that our beliefs are laid down by between conception and 7 years of age. And the psychologists tell us that the brain waves, see, because I'll go into science sometimes. I have no idea what I'm going to be sharing with you guys right now. I don't. It's just going to happen as it comes. And people come to my lay lectures and they'll say, this is the same slides, but you talked about something different tonight than even a week ago. Yeah, because that's what I'm told to do. So do you see how this can ebb and flow for you guys? You've got a structure within the slides. However, you can just go with the flow. You're always going to cover certain things. So psychologists tell us that the brain waves of under 7-year-old child is the brain waves of a person who's hypnotized. So as these, wow. So all this information is getting downloaded into our brain, and I ask you, these beliefs that govern how we perceive and respond to reality, are they your beliefs? Meaning, was it your choice? No. Well, on the bigger level it was. But we're not going to go into that, right? Because you don't want to really blow them out of the water. Yes, you chose it, okay? But that's the other picture. That's quantum 203. We're in quantum 101 right now. So this information that controls how we perceive and respond to our reality was downloaded into our lives before we had a choice. And some of these beliefs can affect us in a negative way, in an unhealthy way. What if you were looking at your health the wrong way? Ah! Wouldn't that make you sick? So we've all been told that. I'm just going to give you a common belief that bugs cause disease. Now, if that belief system is erroneous, that could make us sick. Or we've been told that if something's bothering you, forget about it. Or we've been told that what you really need to do is have lots and lots and lots of protein. And we're going to talk about some of those beliefs, some of those erroneous or inappropriate beliefs as we work through our talk tonight. We say in our practice that we have 6 crucial life choices, And they are what you eat, drink, exercise, rest, how you breathe, and what you think. Now, I had to look at the monitor because I've got it memorized in a different order, okay? But I can just rattle it off. This is where you come in. This is where I come in my own healthcare. Remember, what did we say that the holistic healthcare was a type of active care? Okay, so this is where you come in. That how we eat, drink, breathe, rest, exercise, and think, that's sort of your responsibility. But you don't have to totally change it radically overnight. We're just going to take little steps, and we're going to get little wins and little wins. So we call those the 6 essentials. And they're sort of the foundational pillars of everything we talk about in Best. Now, we're going to be talking about probably the most crucial aspect of what I'm going to be sharing with you tonight. And that we have 2 minds. We have what's called the conscious mind. That's where we think, discern, reason, and understand time. Does everybody understand that? Okay? If you look on the slide, when we're talking about the conscious mind, we're talking about that red portion right on the outside. That's the outer 1/8 of an inch of the cerebral cortex. That's where you and I may be a little bit different. Because we have beliefs and personalities. But everything else, the yellow and the green, that's all automatic. That's what we're going to call the subconscious mind or the autonomous mind. And what autonomous means is it's separate from the conscious mind. And I want to use the word separate again. If you go into quantum physics, there's no separation. But we're not going to do that. So this subconscious autonomic mind, it doesn't think, it doesn't discern, it doesn't reason, it has no aspect of time. It serves only one purpose and one purpose only, and that's why was the body created to? Survive. That's right. So this subconscious mind is responsible for us physically surviving. Now this subconscious mind is broken down into 2 parts. And the 2 parts are what we call the parasympathetic nervous system or the healing system and or the sympathetic system or the fight or flight response. Who's heard of the fight or flight response? Everybody's heard of that fight or flight response. And and this is in a lay lecture, you're going to see that the good majority of these people, they've heard of this fight or flight response. So now it's your job to just bring them to the next step on how we understand the sympathetics and the parasympathetics. So remember, we said that the body was created not to be sick or be well, but to survive. So let's give you some examples. At rest, this is how our nervous system works. This is how we've been pre-programmed by the Creator, that at rest, there's going to be a basic balance between the sympathetics and the parasympathetics. So it's rest. We're lying down. However, when we start to change the stimulus, physical stimulus, it shifts into like a 75% for the healing system and a 25% for the fight or flight system. Do you see what I just did? And you do that to them. I'm going to set my jaw. I'm going to go into flexion, and I'm going to go because that's what they're. And I say this. You're going to see this on the table in a moment. You're going to see this on an inappropriate fight or flight response in a moment. So we have the digestive system at 75%. We have the sympathetics at 20%. Does that make sense? Yeah. The blood has to go into the digestive organs. The breathing is going to change. The hormones are going to change for that stimulus. The blood is going to come from the muscles, and it's going to go into the digestive system. Now, what a slide. We're at risk. Yeah, exactly. So if there is a physical threat to your survival, we have a pre-programmed response, and 75% of the nervous system is going to go into that fight or flight. 25% is going to go into the healing system because it can't totally shut down. So what that means is if a man with a gun, and I always use tiger, because I don't use bear, because if I go back into my Boston accent, I'm going to say bear. And they don't even know what I'm talking about at that point in time. So I use tiger. Or tiger. See, if there's an ER, we don't even pronounce that. So I tiger, bear. All right? Exactly. Chiropractic school, every time I'd ask a question, they go, park your car, park your car, park your car. So if somebody comes in that there's a risk, or if you're doing heavy-duty labor or exercise, the body, it is very appropriate to go into this fight or flight. Now, however, it's not appropriate to live there because think about this. I want to get them thinking. If there is a crisis situation like that last slide, and or a man with a gun or a tiger or exercise, how long does that last? Seconds? Maybe in a race, maybe an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours? But it's not long, right? So the stimulus changes. So this system is meant for quick response, very intense response over a short period of time. Does that make sense? What we have discovered, and it is backed up by all the scientific research, is we can go into one of these systems at an inappropriate time and create a health time bomb. So you can be in this fight or flight system when you're lying asleep in bed. Has anybody had the experience where they wake up sore, stiff, and achy in the morning and they didn't have a good night's sleep? Raise your hand if you've ever had that experience. Yeah, I think we all have. That means we're in that fight or flight system when we're supposed to be in the rest system. But what could happen if you're in the digestive system when you're supposed to be exercising? That's where we could get cramps, and we could have low blood sugar, and we could get irritable. Do you see what I'm saying? So you want to ask them these questions. You get creative. So here's the 3 causes of ill health. You want to know what ill health is? When we all came in with those symptoms, what's going on is we're prematurely aging. This is a concept that I have to keep reminding myself. That all symptoms it's premature age. Aha. So we don't have to get into all the diagnoses. That's from my point of view. It's not that I don't care what the diagnosis that you have. You really want to say this right at the very beginning. It's not that I don't care when I don't go into the whole paperwork that's this thick when they bring the paperwork in. It's not that I don't care. I don't need to know the name to help you heal. Is that okay with you guys? Yes. Okay, good. So here's the 3 reasons of why we prematurely age. Trauma, toxins, and thoughts. TTT. Trauma, toxins, and thoughts. And so now we're going to go into examples of it. So physical trauma, by its very nature, there's going to be a concussion of forces. Does it make sense that the body in physical threat should go into fight or flight? Does that make sense to you guys? You got to get agreement because they have to understand that this is an appropriate response. So car accidents, falls, repetitive injuries, athletics, the list, surgeries, scars, if you've ever had a scar, that's a physical trauma. You cut your body. Stitches, that's a physical trauma. Anything that's a physical trauma. Now, what can happen, and think about this, is that there is normal physiology of healing. But how many of you guys know somebody who's never been well since a physical trauma? Raise your hand. Never been well since a physical trauma. Probably 3/4 of the audience's hands. Who out there themselves has never been well since a physical trauma? I'm going to raise my hand. Okay? Here's the key. We know scientifically that the body will heal from physical trauma. We're talking tears and breaks and the hormones and the inflammations, that whole response. That's going to be healed basically in 6 to 8 weeks. So, you break a bone, they set it, right? We set it, it heals. You get cut, you stitch it up, the body heals it. What does that go back to? What intelligence? That innate intelligence that the body has. You don't have to think about, come on, how many of you guys can think about right now that I'm repairing my liver? Or that right now that my cortisol levels hopefully are nice and down low, but my serotonin levels are nice and high, so I'm nice and happy. We don't have to do that. That's not the job of the conscious mind, it's the job of the subconscious mind. See, get them on the same page. I have to remind myself that to let them fill in the blank. Bring them along, because what's going to happen is, if you start to tread on a belief and or they're getting out of being present, they're doing something else, and now they're not learning. Let's do this right now. We're going to demonstrate the misunderstood word. So right now, I want everybody on their piece of paper, you can do this, and I want you to do this with them at some point in time in the lecture. On a piece of paper, you got to do this really fast because this is subconscious mind. On a piece of paper, write down a house. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, next to the house, write down it, put a tree. Draw it. Draw a house. Draw a tree. Draw a driveway. Okay, she got it. Okay, stop. So now draw a dub. That's what your brain just did. Dub. Your brain went, dub? Your heads came up off the table, and you went, what? Rub-a-dub-dub, 3 men in a tub. It's a puddle. Oh, I know it's silly. I used a word that we don't use in this century. And this is what happens to the brain. If I use a word that you guys don't understand, your brain will shut off, go, what? And I won't be able to bring you along for the journey. So if I do use a word or a concept that you don't understand, let's stop and handle it right then and there. Does that make sense? You want to handle it, because if that person has a misunderstood word, somebody else has a misunderstood word, and I want to bring them along for the journey. Does that make sense? Good. So that's the misunderstood word. And we talked about gradient. Toxins. This is something that's near and dear to my heart, because I believe, it's just a belief in myself, that this is going to surpass the other two, possibly in the next 10 or 20 years, if we don't change this. This is a category that when D.D. Palmer founded chiropractic was not a major deal, although the founder of chiropractic talked about this as a cause of health problems. We could do 2 hours, and I tell them this, we could do 2 hours just talking about poisons. Toxin is synonymous with poison. So we have poisons in our diet. White flour, white sugar, white rice. It's bleach. Bleach will shut down your pancreas. And in the last, from 1990 to 2006, type 2 diabetes, which is the diabetes that you sought to earn. See, now I'm starting to check, I'm stepping on some programs, right? I introduced that we're responsible for our choices. We earned it. Type 2 diabetes has quadrupled in the population. It is the disease that you're going to see come in your office more and more and more. Type 2 diabetes is now epidemic in teenagers. Well, think about it. Why? It's Cokes. It's Pepsis. The mothers start when they're in the womb with Coke and junk food. And at a very, very young age, that pancreas and the liver is getting hammered. Ooh, I'll give you guys as practitioners a really interesting concept. We've all been taught that type 2 diabetes is a disease of the what? Pancreas. And I'm going to tell you that really it's not in the scientific literature. The pancreas is involved in the blood sugars show up, and it shows up on what we've been taught. Now, this is how we've been taught as practitioners. They did autopsies on 10,000, Johns Hopkins Medical School, 10,000 type 2 diabetics. They did autopsies. 5% of them had pathologic pancreases. 95% of them had pathologic what? Now, you're practitioners. Livers. Oh, you guys are so hot. Hot. Because there's a hormone in there called insulin-like growth factor. And it's 100 times more powerful than pancreas. So I just added that. You can sprinkle some stuff now and then, not a lot. Sprinkle some facts to let them know that you know what you're talking about. Does that make sense? You don't want to. I'm not there to overwhelm them with my knowledge. That's not the reason. But every now and then, throw it out there. Throw it out there. Does that make sense to you guys? Throw it out there. Okay. So we have chemicals in our food. This is the ADD kids. They're so sensitive to the chemicals in the food. And we have vaccinations. They want to vaccinate our kids 40 times up to 7 years old. That's the goal. That's the goal, even though in Europe they don't even want to vaccinate anymore. There's foreign hormones in our foods. In 2004, 48% of the waterways were contaminated with female reproductive hormones. It doesn't make a difference if you're eating organic and you're drinking organic and you're thinking positive thoughts. You're getting blasted with female reproductive hormones. Is anybody familiar with the study that was canceled in 2003 on the side effects of estrogen? Raise your hand, because you want to do this, because some of them in the audience will raise their hand. Okay? Do you know why and for those of you that don't know, do you know why they canceled that study? It was too conclusive because it was unethical to do the study, because the side effects of the study were cancer, type 2 diabetes, heart attack and stroke, and anemia. Those are the top 5. So something's wrong with this picture. And even the government that's highly lobbied by all these other factors said, we cannot do this study anymore. And there's acids in our food. Hot flashes. Hormone therapy doesn't work as claimed, and I will tell you it doesn't. And this is our demographic. I'm going to tell you what our demographic is as healthcare practitioners. It's female, 35 to 55, married or not, with or without children, not medical wreckage, and they have dispensable income. I don't say that to them, but I'm saying that to you. Now, does that mean that we don't treat males and kids and we don't treat the elderly? No, not at all. But that is the picture of people that we get the greatest results with. They're right there with us. Does that make sense? I mean, that might blow some people's minds. But think about it. If you're a practitioner, what's the average age of the females that are coming in? It's right in there, isn't it? We know that. Doesn't mean I don't treat the elderly and the males and the little kids. I do. Okay, so here's the sources of these acids that we're talking about. And we have a paradigm that the body is alkaline by design, but it's acid in nature. Now, how many of you guys, and we do this in Arizona, how many of you guys own a swimming pool? Raise your hand. Okay, and they all raise their hand. And we know with our swimming pools, if you don't keep it balanced, what happens? And I'll say, well, what happens? And then they go, well, you get fungus, and you get algae, and you get calcium salts. Well, our body is a swimming pool. This is a swimming pool. Does that make sense to you guys? And they go, yeah. And so to have a healthy body, we got to keep the acid and the alkaline balanced. So we have fruit, we have activity, and then we have acid-producing foods. Now, you're not going to go into the bicarb buffer system. You want to put people to sleep? Go ahead and do it. Don't do it. But acid foods are so much fun. And I'm not saying that we're not going to eat acid foods, but we may need to eat a little bit less. I had a person, I was working with somebody, I'm not going to tell you who it is, but this is how I work. We had a person we were working on the other day, and she said that she craved sugar. And I'll work with people, and then they'll say, well, what's the thing that you crave? See, because it came up under the category nutrition, in your flow chart, when it comes up under nutrition, and you clear them on the emotion, right? But you better get into what's their thing that they crave, because you're not doing your job as a practitioner if you don't find out what they crave. Does that make sense when nutrition shows up under a category? So you say, what are the things that you crave? And then she said to me, sugar. And so then I went deeper. I'm not judging and accusing because I love pizza and ice cream. If I could get away with it, which I can't, I would have pizza and ice cream for dinner, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Yeah, come on. Don't we all have those foods? Yeah, sure. Okay, so now we're on the same page. This is what I'm doing. We're on the same page. I mean, I might be up here and I'm a doctor and I'm lecturing, but I'm just like you. I've just learned that if I do that, I don't feel too hot the next day. Acid-producing foods. They're basically the meats and the grains. This is what Dr. Mortar has brought to the table for over 30 years, and people are starting to catch on to the bandwagon because you're hearing about all the greens and the greens and the greens and the barley greens and all that stuff. So they leave a very strong acid. They have to be neutralized for elimination. They put a lot of stress on the body. They deprive the body of alkaline reserve. Now, this is what happens. Remember we said that the body wasn't created to be sick or be well by two? Okay, this is what happens on a very physical level. You can think really incredible thoughts, and that's good. But on a physical level, the pH, that means the acid-alkaline balance of the blood, must stay between 7.35 and 7.45. Very narrow range. Why is that? Now you're lay people, so I'm going to say, why does the blood have to stay there? To survive, right? Good. What was that? So you won't have a heart attack, but there's a to stay well. But I want to see and I'm only going to go 3 or 4 questions if they don't get it. To live, it's optimum oxygen transport and utilization to get them into the cells. We want to take oxygen from the air, get it right into the cell, and as Dr. Mortar says, we live and we die at the cellular level. So we want to get lots of oxygen into the cell, and that happens between 7.35 and 7.45. What can happen is these acids start to accumulate in the body. The acid-producing foods, maybe some stressful thoughts, maybe too much activity. The acid is going up, but we have to keep the pH here. And then the problem is we're not putting any good foods in, because you're going to see what America's #1 vegetable is in a second. So the body has to, we'll get there. So the body, the acid's going up. We're not putting anything in the bank account. We got to stay right here. The body was created to survive. So what does the body do? Now I'm going to start to ask them. It'll start pulling stuff out of other areas to survive. So if you're in that acid-producing mode, the body needs, one of the first things it needs is sodium, because it'll take the sodium to pull the acid out the urine. That's what it does. So it'll go to the gallbladder, and it'll start robbing sodium from the gallbladder, and it robs it so we can survive. And then what do you think that causes? Gallstones, GERD, acid reflux, acid bile burns, And that's where we get the flabby skin. And you do just like this. Did you see Mick Jagger at the Super Bowl this year? I'm like, Mick, you better start to alkalize. I was just like shaking there. Okay. So you make a joke. Yeah. So then what the body will do is if it can't help that way and it has to go more into buffering the acids so that we don't shift the pH, because if the pH shifts one way or the other way, we're going to go into an acidotic, alkalotic coma. We're going to die. Was the body created to survive? So it doesn't do that. So then it'll go to calcium. Where do you have a calcium bank? The bones. And what do you think is going to happen if we keep making acid choices? We don't want to shift the pH. We're not putting enough in our diet, and we're continuing to pull out acid from the bones. What's going to happen? That's exactly what they all say. So I'm going to go to the next slide. The effects of increased protein consumption on calcium. So when we have 47 grams of protein, we're going to start to lose 31 milligrams of calcium. When we go up to 95 grams, you're at a negative 58 for your bank account. At 142, even on daily calcium supplementation, you're at 120 milligram loss. So you're starting to bounce checks. Who's ever had the experience of bouncing a check? Is that a fun experience? No, it's a stressful experience, and that's what our bodies are going through. It's a stressful experience. Increasing the intake of fruits and vegetables by 50% had no beneficial effect on calcium balance. So it's really not a supplementation. So they did a study. T. Colin Campbell did a study, and I'm not going to go into this great deal, but T. Colin Campbell did a study with China, and they found that Americans are 25% more overweight, and even reducing calories by 30% may not be enough. They consume 1/3 the amount of fat, 1/3 less protein, 7% of their diet is animal protein, 70% of our diet is animal protein. Their cholesterol low is our high. And again, we're not going to go into great detail. Does anybody know out there what America's #1 vegetable is? French fries. Oh, I heard macaroni and cheese. Well, that was a test question. All right, so the #1 cause of toxicity is negative thinking. We're going to talk about that in a second. The second cause of toxicity is our eating. We have to deal with both of these, and we have ways of dealing with this in our office. The #1 dietary problem is consuming too much protein, and we've just talked about that. So didn't we just start to give you some information to start to change some beliefs so you can make different choices? Does you see what we just did? We're going to give you some information, some new information, so that you can have different beliefs, new information, so you can make different choices. Because what's going to happen if we don't give you new information? What choices are you going to continue to make? The same choices, and what are we going to get? Actually, we're going to get the same results, but the body's going to get sicker. Because it's just going further down that hole of premature aging. Does that make sense? Good. So here's a lemon. I want you to close your eyes right now. I'm going to show you how thoughts are things. Close your eyes. Picture a nice, juicy Arizona lemon. And it's just bristling. And then we cut that lemon and we just squeeze that juice right into your mouth. Okay, open your eyes. How many of you had a response? Just raise your hand if you had that response. Oh my goodness. Now maybe that wouldn't, for those of you that you didn't get a response, maybe that was not your food. Maybe it would be, like mine, it would be a pizza or a hot fudge sundae. Okay. Some of you are laughing because that's our food. Now what I want you to do just for a second is turn, well you can't really do this, but you can. Turn to your partner and I want you to just touch them on the shoulders. Just turn to a partner and just start to touch them right up here. Right back here on their shoulders. And just start to touch it and massage it a little bit. Okay, now reverse partners. Touch it and massage it. Just reverse. Okay, reverse. Very good. Now stop. Okay, I know you guys want to keep going. That's what they'll do. They want to keep going. Now, when you were on the receiving end of the massage, did anybody have some soreness in their shoulders? Raise your hand. Well, I would ask you, am I that threatening? No. But our shoulders are up into defense as if there's a threat, correct? That's called the shoulder test. So we ask you to evaluate during the day, are your shoulders up by your ears? Is your neck getting tense and taut? Because if it is, I'd ask you to ask this question. Is somebody about to physically harm you? And if it's yes, punch him or run. Kick him or run. Does that make sense? because you solve the survival response. But if it's not, then we want to start to say what's going on inside. Does that make sense? We're going to show you how we do that. So we have a saying that thoughts are things, but you guys know that. How many of you guys have read studies or read in the newspaper that people, when they get stressed out, I don't like to use that word, but I use it because it's a colloquialism. There's no such thing as negative stress. Now I'm going to step on some programs. There's just resistance to life's lessons. Ooh. And I do that. Ooh. There's just resistance to life's lessons. So think about what you think about. So then what they do is they take the dog, show it food. This is key for you as practitioners, and you want to show them this. We can show a dog food, and we know it's going to salivate, but we can ring a bell. We can pair it with any other stimulus. And we put the two stimuluses together for a while, and the dog's going to salivate, correct? You take away the food, you ring the bell, and the dog salivates. Ooh, that is a wow moment, because we're not even showing it food. Should a bell make me salivate? No. It's been paired with, and this is what's happening when you find out they feel frustrated and it's stored under happiness. Yeah, this is deep stuff. So we have a way of finding out all these patterns in our brain to help change the patterns. So my reactions to life, when something bad happens to me, I think it was the experience I needed. Remember we talked about the 6 essential choices. Learning, this is your part. This is the active learning part. Or, nothing ever good happens to me, and if it wasn't for bad luck, I wouldn't have any luck at all. Hee-haw! Or, when something good happens to me, I think, I worked hard and I know how to succeed. I'll tell you what, I'll share something personal. I got an award one time from Dr. Mortar, and the first thought, like when they announced my name, you know the first thought that entered my mind? I'm not worthy of it. That was the first thought. So I got cleared on it, but I'll share it with you. That was the first thought, boom, that came into my mind. I wasn't worthy of it. I'm letting them know that I get treated. I'm one of you. I'm a servant. I worked hard to know how to succeed, or it must have been an accident because this really shouldn't happen to me. That was sort of my first response. I'm not good enough. They did a study. This is called the Iron Law of Cancer. And basically, the study was that they studied 15,000 people. They wanted to search what's the common denominator of cancer, and I will say to you, all disease. So whether it's stiffness and achiness, whether it's autoimmune disease, whether it's obesity, it doesn't make a difference. Are you guys now starting to understand that it doesn't make a difference what the name or the manifestation is? It's those 3 T's, trauma, toxins, and thoughts. They found that when there's cancer in the cell, it's a coding in the brain. Now you're starting to move them into the brain. So we move from trauma to toxins to thoughts to the brain. We're specialists on electricity. Don't say brains because you're not a neurologist. We're not neurologists. We're specialists on electricity, on interference. 15,000 people, never been contradicted. And what they found is there was a trauma, something very, very strong at the time before they developed the disease. And when the person reconciles that trauma, the body literally starts to heal on its own. In my practice, I've never found that contradicted. So there's 2 ways that we go into an inappropriate physiology. There's 2 ways. And this applies to trauma, toxins, and thoughts, not only emotions. Just always remember, there's 2 ways of how we go into TT and T. I'm going to show you with the emotions right now. So if you have an extreme fear, like a tiger walked in this room right now, I think we're going to generate some intense fear. All right? Or a car accident, or whatever it may be. Intense fear. Oh my gosh! The body can go up into intense. Now this line up here, we have intensity and we have time. The line that's going across is when your body goes into defense physiology, inappropriate physiology, and you're not in conscious control anymore. Remember we talked about that subconscious mind that's in charge of survival? Okay? Or another way. So that's high intensity, short duration. Just a little bit of worry. I wonder if I can pay the bills. And a little bit more worry. And you know what? I'm really feeling guilty because I'm a best practitioner and I really shouldn't be feeling guilty that I'm worrying about the bills. Or I'm a best practitioner and I had a brownie today, and what are they going to think about me if I'm a presenter and then I have a brownie and then they see me having a brownie? Oh my gosh, do you see what the mind does? It just keeps going. And then a little bit more worry and a little bit more guilt, and then finally we stair step it and we go over that line, and this is when a person comes in the office, this is when one of you guys come in, and I say, what happened? And I woke up and I went to comb my hair and I can't move my neck. And this is where you absolutely know. You say, what went on? Was there any history of trauma lately? Falls, bumps, bruises, swats, hits? No. You automatically know they're into timing because of thoughts. Automatically. Guilt, and we're over. We're an emotional override. This is the hidden cause of all the diseases. And I've never seen anybody that's walked in my office that's not this type of experience underneath it. Let me give you an example. We had a little girl come in the office, and I'm going to be wrapping up soon. How am I doing on 10 minutes? Good. Okay, so this little girl comes in the office because her leg was blue. Her mother's a nurse. She broke her ankle on a trampoline. The leg 6 weeks later, it's not healing. They wanted to take a bone out of her hip and put it into her leg because it's not healing. She's going to have a dysfunctional joint for the rest of her life. I treated her. And as I treated her and we found out what the subconscious memory pattern that was holding up the healing. See, her brain was thinking about something else instead of healing the leg. Remember we said that the body could do that? We held the contacts, and literally, I'm walking out the room because I had some other people to work on. Her leg went pink. Her mother is running around the office. Oh my gosh, did you see that? She's running. This is a nurse. She's running around because they were going to have to do it. They were going to have to do an op. Here's the thing, because everything happens for a reason. When they took the picture, on top of the break, there was a tumor down there too. Yeah. And then 6 weeks later, not only is it knitting up, but the tumor is going away. Figure that one out. Okay, so our feelings, I'm not saying that the body doesn't produce chemical responses. It does. I'm not saying that you don't hurt, and if we do a blood work, there's not going to be things in the blood work, and we're not going to find things in the body. It's all there on a chemical basis, but we want to find the cause. So when you have some anger, we found that the body will produce norepinephrine. It's a chemical. It's a get-up-and-go chemical. And then when we're panicking, we're producing dopamine. And then when we get really hostile, 35 different chemicals. And we're going to test you on all 35 right now. When you're negative, oh, biggie, this is cortisol. This is fat around the midsection. If you're getting just that fat around the midsection, know that you've been negative for quite a while and your body's cortisol resistant, just like the body can get insulin resistant in type 2 diabetes, the body can get cortisol resistant. And then the cortisol receptors get all plugged up and we're going to get fat around the midsection. There's going to be inflammation, there's going to be hot flashes, there's going to be insomnia, and there's going to be It's premature aging, that's all it is. Our feelings determine our health. So we can have really positive feelings like getting Mustang Sally, consciously disease, and we can get at it in less than 5 minutes. It's as simple as turning a circuit breaker back on. Why do circuit breakers go off in your house? That's why they go off in the body. And it imbalances the energy. Too much energy, too little energy. We have dis-ease, a lack of ease. And if that lack of ease stays too long, we're going to have a disease. But it's just a gradient downhill. And the only difference between a rut, which is a pattern we do all the time, and the grave is the depth. The only difference between a rut Being stuck in the same thing, doing the same thing over and over again and praying for a different result and then thinking God abandoned you. So I'll change religions and it doesn't make a difference. And praying for is in the grave is the depth. If we base our health on the absence of symptoms, because health and wellness is not just the absence of symptoms, it's the full expression of the person's being on all different levels. If we base it that health, and this is how we're taught, see, this is a belief system, health means you don't have any symptoms. Is that correct, or is that correct? No, you're lay people right now. Yes. So I say to you, then isn't the most healthy person in the United States of America a corpse? Yes. Who wants to be a corpse? Not now. Not today. See, because nobody's making it out of life alive, but I just don't want to be the first in my class. That's sort of a joke. So what can we offer here to you as best practitioners? We are going to retime the body. We're going to turn the circuit breakers back on so that the body starts to become aware and self-regulate. And when the body becomes aware, we know it will heal itself. We automatically know, because right now you don't have to think about the food that you're digesting from supper because it's in the evening time. You don't have to worry about that. You don't have to think about that. The body knows how to do it when it becomes more aware, when it regulates itself. So that's what, and we are experts at this. And it's fast, and it's powerful, and it's profound. And I'm going to show you how to do it, and I'm going to show you how we do it in a second. We have what are called alkaline products that will take the acid, detoxify the acid out of the body. We have very specific supplements that are from whole foods. These are not pharmaceutical, they're not coal tar, they're not corn products that do absolutely nothing except give you expensive urine. It's a joke. They are organic, cold pressed, covalently bonded, and they're able to increase your bank account. Who'd like to have $1 million in their bank account? I want to have $1 million in my bank account, my alkaline reserve, so no matter what life throws at me, I can write some checks out. So this is active healing here. This is active healing. And we can help to change some beliefs. We want to deprogram that computer. How many of you, if you have a virus in your computer, is that a very pleasant experience? No. Well, I'll tell you, from this point in time, from what we've learned today, when you came in, to now, how many of you would raise your hand and say, I may have a virus in my computer? Raise your hand. Take note of the people that didn't raise their hand, because you have not brought them along with you. And you may say, well, can I bring them along, or do I really want them in my practice? We have very specific things that we're going to help you with to help reprogram, debug the computer. We have what's called the 3 steps of forgiveness. I'm not going to go into the 3 steps now. I don't do that in the first thing. That's where the gals, when they do the report of finding, they're going to do that. 3 steps of forgiveness. We talk about the mortar march. We have a phenomenal NT. I'm going to show you with the emotions right now. So if you have an extreme fear, like a tiger walked in this room right now, I think we're going to generate some intense fear. All right? Or a car accident, or whatever it may be. Intense fear. Oh my gosh! The body can go up into intense. Now this line up here, we have intensity and we have time. The line that's going across is when your body goes into defense physiology, inappropriate physiology, and you're not in conscious control anymore. Remember we talked about that subconscious mind that's in charge of survival? Okay? Or another way. So that's high intensity, short duration. Just a little bit of worry. I wonder if I can pay the bills. And a little bit more worry. And you know what? I'm really feeling guilty because I'm a best practitioner and I really shouldn't be feeling guilty that I'm worrying about the bills. Or I'm a best practitioner and I had a brownie today, and what are they going to think about me if I'm a presenter and then I have a brownie and then they see me having a brownie? Oh my gosh, do you see what the mind does? It just keeps going. And then a little bit more worry and a little bit more guilt, and then finally we stair step it and we go over that line, and this is when a person comes in the office, this is when one of you guys come in, And I say, what happened? And I woke up and I went to comb my hair and I can't move my neck. And this is where you absolutely know. You say, what went on? Was there any history of trauma lately? Falls, bumps, bruises, swats, hits? No. You automatically know they're into timing because of thoughts. Automatically. Guilt, 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 and we're over. We're an emotional override. This is the hidden cause of all the diseases. And I've never seen anybody that's walked in my office that's not had this type of experience underneath it. Let me give you an example. We had a little girl come in the office, and I'm going to be wrapping up soon. How am I doing on 10 minutes? Good. Okay, so this little girl comes in the office because her leg was blue. Her mother's a nurse. She broke her ankle on a trampoline. The leg 6 weeks later, it's not healing. They wanted to take a bone out of her hip and put it into her leg because it's not healing. She's going to have a dysfunctional joint for the rest of her life. I treated her. And as I treated her and we found out what the subconscious memory pattern that was holding up the healing. See, her brain was thinking about something else instead of healing the leg. Remember we said that the body could do that? We held the contacts and literally, I'm walking out the room because I had some other people to work on. Her leg went pink. Her mother is running around the office. Oh my gosh, did you see that? She's running. This is a nurse. She's running around because they were going to have to do it. They were going to have to do an Here's the thing, because everything happens for a reason. When they took the picture, on top of the break, there was a tumor down there too. Yeah. And then 6 weeks later, not only is it knitting up, but the tumor is going away. Figure that one out. Okay, so our feelings, I'm not saying that the body doesn't produce chemical responses. It does. I'm not saying that you don't hurt, and if we do a blood work, there's not going to be things in the blood work, and we're not going to find things in the body. It's all there on a chemical basis, but we want to find the cause. So when you have some anger, we found that the body will produce norepinephrine. It's a chemical. It's a get-up-and-go chemical. And then when we're panicking, we're producing dopamine. And then when we get really hostile, 35 different chemicals. And we're going to test you on all 35 right now. When you're negative, oh, biggie, this is cortisol. This is fat around the midsection. If you're getting just that fat around the midsection, know that you've been negative for quite a while and your body's cortisol resistant, just like the body can get insulin resistant in type 2 diabetes, the body can get cortisol resistant. And then the cortisol receptors get all plugged up and we're going to get fat around the midsection. There's going to be inflammation, there's going to be hot flashes, there's going to be insomnia, and there's going to be It's premature aging, that's all it is. Our feelings determine our health. So we can have really positive feelings like getting Mustang Sally, consciously disease, and we can get at it in less than 5 minutes. It's as simple as turning a circuit breaker back on. Why do circuit breakers go off in your house? That's why they go off in the body. And it imbalances the energy. Too much energy, too little energy. We have dis-ease, a lack of ease. And if that lack of ease stays too long, we're going to have a disease. But it's just a gradient downhill. And the only difference between a rut, which is a pattern we do all the time, and the grave is the depth. The lights. The only difference between a rut, being stuck in the same thing, doing the same thing over and over again and praying for a different result and then thinking God abandoned you, so I'll change religions, and it doesn't make a difference. And praying for is in the grave is the depth. If we base our health on the absence of symptoms, because health and wellness is not just the absence of symptoms, it's the full expression of the person's being on all different levels. If we base it that health, and this is how we're taught, see, this is a belief system, health means you don't have any symptoms. Is that correct, or is that correct? No, you're lay people right now. Yes. So I say to you, then isn't the most healthy person in the United States of America a corpse? Yes. Who wants to be a corpse? Not now. Not today. See, because Nobody's making it out of life alive, but I just don't want to be the first in my class. That's sort of a joke. So what can we offer here to you as best practitioners? We are going to retime the body. We're going to turn the circuit breakers back on so that the body starts to become aware and self-regulate. And when the body becomes aware, we know it will heal itself. We automatically know, because right now you don't have to think about the food that you're digesting from supper because it's in the evening time. You don't have to worry about that. You don't have to think about that. The body knows how to do it when it becomes more aware, when it regulates itself. So that's what, and we are experts at this. And it's fast, and it's powerful, and it's profound. And I'm going to show you how to do it, and I'm going to show you how we do it in a second. We have what are called alkaline products that will take the acid, detoxify the acid out of the body. We have very specific supplements that are from Whole Foods. These are not pharmaceutical, they're not coal tar, they're not corn products that do absolutely nothing except give you expensive urine. It's a joke. They are organic, cold pressed, covalently bonded, and they're able to increase your bank account. Who'd like to have $1 million in their bank account? I want to have $1 million in my bank account, my alkaline reserve, so no matter what life throws at me, I can write some checks out. So this is active healing here. This is active healing. And we can help to change some beliefs. We want to deprogram that computer. How many of you, if you have a virus in your computer, is that a very pleasant experience? No. Well, I'll tell you, from this point in time, from what we've learned today, when you came in, to now, how many of you would raise your hand and say, I may have a virus in my computer? Raise your hand. Take note of the people that didn't raise their hand, because you have not brought them along with you. And you may say, well, can I bring them along, or do I really want them in my practice? We have very specific things that we're going to help you with to help reprogram, debug the computer. We have what's called the 3 steps of forgiveness. I'm not going to go into the 3 steps now. I don't do that in the first thing. That's where the gals, when they do the report of finding, they're going to do that. 3 steps of forgiveness. We talk about the mortar march. We have a phenomenal piece of exercise that you can do before and after exercise, first thing in the morning, anytime during the day, that will give you a free neurologic update, or we could say a free update neurologically. What does that mean? Fun, and it's going to balance your computer. And then we have what's called belly breathing, and guys are just looking at that belly going, and the gals are going, meh. Why do we do that? It's a program, that's why. So we have belly breathing. The belly breathing will help the brain realize that there's no tiger. That's why we do that. And that's what your responsibility is to do. And we'll show you how to do that. So remember, the world is a friendly place. Take a deep breath and enjoy life. It's all about health, happiness, and success. We always say, if it's to be, it is up to. We are here to help. Now let's have some fun. Now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to just do this quickly. I'm not going to do an adjustment. Could I have the adjustment table up here? I'm going to show you practice management 101. Because all you've done from this point on, you've got feedback from them, you've got agreement from them, but you haven't given them mass. Mass is that if I'm teaching you about, because right now, all you guys are interested in, and I'll say this, but all they're interested in is what's in it for me. Come on, understand that. That's what they're thinking. What's in it for me? And so we've been talking about these concepts, but it's almost like if I've been talking about driving a tractor, and I say, okay, that's it. You want to get in that tractor and you want to drive that tractor, you have to have mass. You got to feel it, okay? So I'm going to do a demonstration right now. Now, let's see where we're at. So I just want somebody, I'm not going to do an adjustment. I'm telling you, I'm not going to do an adjustment right now, but I'm going to show you what I would do, because most of you have already been adjusted, right? Okay, so let me just have one person up on stage. She's going to come up on stage and go ahead. Sonia, good to see you again. We had a great experience this morning. What I'll do is this is how I preface it. Who has in the audience something that's a chronic neck, shoulder, back, joint problem, and it's restricted and it's painful and it's not a new injury? And this is it right here. This is where you're going to wow them. You're going to take them from the information that you think is great, but they're going, oh, it's sort of like silly, and he's a crazy chiropractor or a chiropractor or a practitioner. You're going to wow them right now. All right? So this is sit up for a second. This is last week. Picked a woman out of and don't pick the person who's not responding doing this. Because when you go to do a muscle test, they're going to send you through the wall. Do you understand that? Pick the person who's been responding. They may be in pain, but it's okay. So we put her through range of motion, and when she went, I said, it was a shoulder problem. It's chronic. It's 4 years. I said, raise your arm. She could raise it to here. Touch your other shoulder. She could touch it, a lot of pain. She raised her arm to here to go scratch her back. She could raise it to here. She could do it to here. Okay? So I said, see what's going on? This has been going on for 4 years. We have restricted range of motion. We have pain. Understand that the same system that's running that physiology affects every other system of her body. What I'll do is I will have her lie face down. So go ahead and lie. And I've demonstrated the range of motion. Everybody get that? Now you're in practitioner mode. Practitioner mode. I'll have them lie down, and I'm going to palpate from top to bottom, and I'm going to touch every circuit breaker that hurts. Push, push, push. Ow, 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 ow. Do you remember we talked about defense physiology, that the body can do perfect physiology at the wrong time? There's absolutely no reason why these spots should be tender. Ow, ow, ow. Does that make sense to you guys? All right? She's only thinking about her shoulder. He's only thinking about his problem. I want to show them that there's what they're conscious of and what they're not aware of. This can be a health time bomb. All right? So, then you're just going to turn over. You do your face-up adjustment. Boom, boom, boom. You fix what you find what you fix. You shouldn't say fix. If they only fix cats and dogs. We adjust. They fix cats and dogs. Doc, will you fix me? And I'll say, they only fix cats and dogs. So we adjust. So we adjust her, okay? We have her sit up. Go ahead and face them. And then we say to her, and this is what happened last week, take your shoulder and touch your other shoulder. And she goes like this. The eyes go up. Everybody's eyes are going, and she goes, there's no pain. How long you had that? 4 years. They say I have a frozen shoulder and a torn rotator cuff. And they're going, oh my gosh. Okay, let's blow them away a little bit more. Take your hand and then go behind your shoulder. And now she's able to do that. This lady was able to do that. But she went from here to that. I said, that's about, I said, what's that a percentage improvement? She says it's about 80%. 80%? Yeah, 80%. And then I said, now take your arm, and this is the most difficult one with a shoulder problem, and she went from here to here. I said, if that doesn't get you guys to stand up and shout, amen, alleluia, I don't know what will. All right? Thank you very much. That's a life changed. All right? Now we're going, so you've taken the information, you've given them a demonstration, now you're going to go into a close. This is really important. How many of you guys have learned something tonight that is life-changing, new, and life-altering? Raise your hand. Awesome. Awesome. My job has been accomplished. What we've done is we've given you a coupon in your package. And in that coupon, it's for our new exam. And in that examination, we do a case history, urine and saliva, we do heart rate variability, we do blood pressure, and we do a surface electromyograph. They don't know anything about that. We do an exhaustive, comprehensive exam to see where your body is at right now. Where is it at on a scale of 0 to 10? Normally that's $225. However, because you guys spent your time to invest in yourselves to hear something new, dynamic, and life-changing, we're going to give it to you for $79. That coupon is yours right now. Isn't that awesome? Yeah. And they go, yeah. However, we're going to take it one step better. If you guys sign up tonight for an examination, okay, if you sign up for the examination tonight, you got to put a credit card, cash, or check. Because I'm looking for just a few good men and women. All right? I'm looking for just because I want to guarantee results. If you sign up tonight, what we're going to do now, this is your option, all right? You can say, I'm going to give you Dr. Mortar's book on pH. It will show you totally how to change your diet, your lifestyle, and monitor your cells on a weekly basis. Is that not awesome? Yes. Okay, that's one thing you could do if they sign up tonight, or you can say, if you sign up tonight, we will give you, your exam costs $79 on the coupon. However, you could say, we'll give you your first treatment free. Just do something for them to get them to sign up. You want that commitment. Does that make sense? Yes. Okay, and they're going to do it. They're going to do that. Okay. So, what do I got, 5 minutes? Do I have less than 5 minutes? I have 5 minutes. Okay, let me just do the last thing, then I'll answer questions, okay? So, what I've given you is verbiage. I highly recommend 3 things. First of all, get the CD with the best of best for 30 years. Because as you download that information into your brain, back and forth to work, I'm guaranteeing you that you will have all this information and it'll spew right out at the appropriate time. First of all. Second of all, you have the verbiage I've given you. And then third of all, I'd highly recommend you go to Health Week. Because when I went to Health Week and I participated, but then I observed. Now understand, Dr. Moore is not answering questions when you're at Health Week as a practitioner. Has anybody had that experience? Because that's not the purpose. The purpose is for you to heal. However, you know and I know we're sitting back and watching. Right? Yes, we are. And when I watched him do what he does with the confidence and the knowingness by being in his electrical field, it gave that to me. And I went back and that radically transformed my practice. The speed, the knowingness, everything, just by watching him do it. So get to Health Week and watch how he'll go through 20 or 30 people, I don't know, in an hour. You can do that. I see 5 on the half hour plus a new patient. Because when I come in, I expect those people that their interference is gone in 2 or 3 contacts. Does that make sense? Okay, so here's the last thing. For this lay lecture, this PowerPoint, it's normally $199. You get it today, it's $149. If you want to be a successful practitioner, this is the foundational thing that you need to be successful, because you've got to get this information out, and you want them for wellness care. You've got to give them this information. And from there, you can do any other type of lecture. But you've got to get out there and do your lectures. And they've got this guy on the front cover from Chicago. Okay, so this is it, $199 regularly, it's $149 today. It is the best investment, and you get to listen to it, and you've got the training steps, you've got the PowerPoint. This is there. It's a no-brainer. Everybody can do this, and everybody needs to do it because you've been given a gift to give to the public. Question. I'm just going to entertain, 2, 3 questions? 2, 3 questions. Go ahead. You bet. You want to just bring that practice up, you get this information, and in the package also, you get to do the demonstration with the magnets. Awesome. I almost forgot that. Thank you. The magnets are in the package. This is incredible. I mean, how much more other than Sue coming to your office, or Dr. Ted or myself coming to your office and doing the lay lecture? I mean, they're giving it all to you. I mean, this is awesome stuff. So they give you the magnet. Okay, yes. If you want to bootstrap your practice, when you get back, you make flyers up and to all your patients. Don't go over yet. Not just yet. You can run in a second. Everybody who's coming in, you make a flyer up, you put it in your travel card, and you give it to everybody. And then all the new people. And then you send people, like we tell you to do, we share on how to promote it. get it out to the health food stores, and you just go, and you go, and you go, and then just watch what's going to happen. And you know what? Remember when we had you walk across the stage? If the first time only one person comes, oh well, go walk across the stage again, and keep it going and going and going until you find the mechanism that works for you. But get them to come in the practice. I always say an hour, okay? But it may be 45 minutes. But if they start to ask questions, I go with the questions. I always say to them, in the lay lecture, I'm going to answer as many questions. Now, if it becomes too many questions and I'm running behind and I'm looking at the clock, I'm going to say, I will stay as late as you want. I will handle every question, but we're going to just end it now because people need to get home. They need to go to work. But it's going to be an hour with the presentation and the demonstration. Because treatment time, I don't answer questions. I say that to them up front. If that presses a button, okay. If they don't come in, okay. But treatment time is treatment time. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to say about the homework or whatever, but if they start asking in-depth questions, I'm going to say, you know what, we can handle all that, Mary. Just come to a lay lecture, and we're going to handle all that and more. And here's the thing. When you recommend them come to the evening with Best, bring your friends, your family, especially your husband and your support person, because we want them to be with you to support you in your healing journey. You get that verbiage? We want them to be with you to support you in your healing journey. Now, you're going to help them become patients too, obviously. When they see that, they're going to go, oh, I got a stomach problem. You know, I got asthma, whatever it may be. One more question. You always get the results because you're going to only pick a person with chronic, restricted range of motion. Don't pick a thyroid problem. Because they may have to go home at night and process the adjustment before you get the physical manifestation. So pick something chronic. I saw Dr. Mortar do this years ago, and this is what's built my practice. We literally wow them right here and right now. And seriously, then I say, once I say any other questions, I'll close. I say, thank you for coming. Go sign up front. People are already running up front to go sign up. There was one last question. She had her hand up before you. Yeah, you're going to treat them like you treat them. Now, some practitioners only do face down. They only do a basic. I just go right for it because I want a wow. Thank you very much.